Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is John O'Brien. I'm the Superintendent of Schools for the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District. If you could move to slide 29, please. Also with me today, representing KPBSD, are Assistant Superintendent Clayton Holland and Assistant Superintendent Dave Jones. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in our district's Smart Start plan, and as importantly, we believe, to discuss serious fiscal concerns facing most of Alaska's school districts. Slide 30, please. Our Smart Start School Startup Plan was presented to and unanimously approved by the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District Board of Education on July 13th. We have made it clear to our board and to our community that this plan will see many revisions throughout the school year as the medical information, the science, and pandemic situation changes and fluxes in the state of Alaska and globally. In fact, our first revision will likely be the requirement for all staff members and older students to wear face coverings at all levels of risk, from green through red. Many of the same provisions and aspects that you have heard just now from our school district colleagues' plans are indeed also incorporated into the KPBSD plan. At this time, Assistant Superintendent Holland will present a very brief, high-level summary of our plan and where to find the full document. Mr. Holland?
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. The KPBSD has a comprehensive plan and information related to our...
Excuse me, if you could introduce yourself
yes,
and your title. Thank you, and then proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Clayton Holland. I am the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction for the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District.
Okay, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
And we're still on slide 30. Thank you, ma'am. The KPBSD has a comprehensive plan and information that can be found on our district webpage. I encourage committee members to take a look at that when they have the opportunity. Our school work group consisted of 20 core members that included school leaders, health experts, and our union presidents. We surveyed all staff and parents and high school students in May and June with over 3,000 responses. We also reviewed the statewide PTA survey as well. We've consulted with countless other district leaders, members of our community, and also I'd like to thank Dr. Zink and Commissioner Johnson for also meeting with us. Our work has been organized around some key themes. Some of those words from those themes can be found on slide 30. A few aren't. I'm going to start with one of those, equity. Our work really focused on how can we make this a plan that will work for all students, not just those with support at home or proper internet access. We are a district of 42 schools, very diverse schools and locations across an area the size of West Virginia, and not everyone has the same access to technology or the same supports at home as others. We also centered a lot of this on parent choice. Parent choice is a big thing in our district, and we do a lot centered around that. So in that theme, we came up with 3 choices for parents. We have in-person learning 5 days a week. We have remote learning at our neighborhood school. And then we have the homeschool program. And we're hoping that within those options, as people become more comfortable or as risk levels change, they will come back to our schools if they opted not to start that way, or it could go the other way, depending on what the circumstances are. We felt it was key that parents have a choice within this. We also focus on continuity of learning and consistency. We heard clearly from our community members and families that they needed to have something consistent that as much as possible and as much as risk levels allow, that they can predict when they're going to be at school. It's key to our social emotional learning and to the well-being of people in our community. We have a lot of people out there who are hurting, just like all across this country. We also have been concerned with safety and well-being. And within that, you can see the word symptom-free, but there's much more that goes into that, including how we structure our rooms and having cohorts and what we do in our buildings. And then we also emphasize flexibility. that we're going to be flexible up until the very end and throughout this year with the new science and new information that we get, including risk levels. Since we submitted our plan to the board for approval in July 13th, things have changed drastically with risk levels and the information that we're getting, and we know that we'll be adjusting as needed. We also have, like I said before, have 42 schools, and we know that one size doesn't fit all, so we have to do things by regions and also consider schools that are more remote. How does that look different? Or our K-12 schools that may have much more space with less students. So that was all factored into what we do.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Holland. This is Superintendent O'Brien again. Madam Chair, at this point in time, I would like to have Assistant Superintendent Dave Jones. He will be presenting specifically on the serious fiscal concerns that we have in KPBSD, as well as, I'm sure, every other superintendent in the state of Alaska. Assistant Superintendent Jones, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for allowing us to testify today. My name is Dave Jones, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Support for the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District. If we could move to slide 31, it would be good. 19 days from today, on August 11th, our teachers and staff are scheduled to return for in-service to begin our school year. Our staffing is based on preset pupil-teacher ratios, and our salaries and benefits equal roughly 82% of our total expenditure budget. Based on last year's enrollments, we have predicted we will have 8,573 students in our district for FY21. 7,763 of those students, or roughly 91%, were predicted to be in our neighborhood schools. 810 of those students, or 9% of our students, were predicted to be in the KPBSD homeschool program called Connections. On the revenue side of our budget, our concern in any year is the revenue we receive from the October 20-day count, and if it will support the expenditures we have already predicted and committed to. I believe this lag in revenue determination is the one inherent weakness in the current foundation funding formula. This year, the revenue concerns have been heightened by the volume of calls we have already received from parents expressing concerns of having their children attend the in-person neighborhood schools and potentially be exposed to the coronavirus. What we have been hearing is parents saying they are going to protect their children by placing them in homeschool correspondence classes until the coronavirus concerns pass, and then return to their neighborhood schools. At this time, it would appear that any resolution to the coronavirus crisis will last until at least after the October 20-day count period. If students move to our KPBSD Connections homeschool program from our neighborhood school, it's better than if they move to a non-KPBSD statewide program. But for the Connections students, we will only receive 90% of the BSA value for those students, and they will not be put through the multipliers within the foundation formula, which will be a significant revenue loss for KPBSD. On the other hand, if they choose a non-KPBSD statewide correspondence program, we will receive no funding for FY21, but we will be expected to provide educational services when those students return to our neighborhood schools after the coronavirus crisis resolves. This revenue loss concern is especially alarming because our current FY21 general fund budget deficit is expected to eliminate all of our unassigned fund balance. On the Kenai, we don't like to just provide concerns, but we like to offer solutions as well. In the short term for FY21, we would like to see a hold harmless revenue plan for districts with declining enrollments so they can fund the expenditure plans and commitments they have made based on pre-COVID-19 enrollments. In the long term for FY22 and beyond, we would suggest that revenue be based on the prior year's actual enrollment. This would help correct the inherent weakness I raised earlier. Districts would have a year to plan for declining enrollments. A similar funding model in another state provides districts with the opportunity to recalculate support if they have an enrollment increase of 10% or more. With that, I would be happy to stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones, Mr. Holland, and Dr. O'Brien.